If your laptop has lines across the screen and will not start up, if the load bar doesn't make it to 100% and it restarts itself, it's usually a problem with your hard drive or your logic board. I took this laptop to the Apple store, they ran some tests and were able to tell me that it is my logic board. Instead of paying $500 to replace my logic board, I'm going to heat it up to repair any faulty soldering on it. Follow these steps and you may be able to fix your laptop too.
So you're going to need a cleaning duster spray, some thermal paste, a Phillips number 1 or number 00 screwdriver. A spudger is really good to have. If you don't have a spudger, you can use a flathead. And then you'll need a T6 torque screwdriver and a tri-point screwdriver, a small one, size Y0. But you probably don't have all that, so you can get them up cheap on Amazon, and the link to those products are in the description. Unscrew the 10 screws on the edge of the MacBook Pro.
Clean the inside of the cover plate once it's removed. Step 2 is removing the battery.
Lift up on the battery connector right here, put the spudger right underneath and lift upwards till this connector comes loose. Take your tri-point screwdriver and unscrew the screws located here, here, and underneath this little sticker there's another screw located here. I've already done this, so I'm just going to lift up this tab and take the battery out.
Next, you have to unscrew and remove the fans.
After you've removed the 3 screws on the fan, disconnect the fan from the socket on the logic board. You have to be extremely careful when you're removing the fan connector from the fan socket. The fan connector will be located inside of the socket, and to get it out, put your spudger underneath the wires and slowly twist upwards. And you have to make sure you don't put your spudger underneath the socket so that it doesn't pop off. You only want the connector to pop off, not the socket. Once you've successfully got the connector out of the socket for the fan, pull the fan out and put it somewhere safe. Do the exact same thing with the fan on the other side. Make sure you remove the fan connector on this side too. Remove the camera cable from its socket on the logic board. Get the cable free and simply pull this direction. Do not pull upwards. And it'll come right out. Use the flat end of your spudger to pry the Bluetooth connector up from the logic board. Also use the spudger to remove the optical drive connector from the logic board. Disconnect the hard drive from its socket on the logic board.
Disconnect the subwoofer from its socket.
With the subwoofer connection, you need to be extremely careful as well to only remove the connector piece from the socket and not remove the socket itself from the logic board.
Unscrew and remove the cable cover.
Lift the cover off and set it aside. Use the flat end spudger to pry the TRACKPAD connector up and out of its socket on the logic board. Disconnect the keyboard ribbon connector from the logic board. Lift up the ribbon. Use your fingernail to pop open the connector part. See how it pops up vertical? After you've done that, pull out the ribbon from underneath. Use the flat end of the spudger to lift the battery indicator connector up and out of its socket.
Disconnect the display data cable.
Pull the locking lever upwards, and then pull both cables outwards to remove it.
Disconnect the keyboard backlight.
Be sure you only flip up the tab itself and not the socket. After you flip it up, slide the ribbon cable out of its socket.
Remove the 9 screws holding in the logic board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
With the screws removed, you can remove the logic board from the computer. Now you have to remove the 6 screws holding in the heatsink to the logic board. Before you start the next step, make sure that the microphone is out of its housing. Remove the 2 screws holding in the speaker. After removing the screws on the speaker, carefully pull the left speaker wires upwards to lift the speaker out of its connector on the logic board. Carefully pull the microphone cables upwards to remove the microphone. Pull the DC board cables inwards to disconnect it from the logic board. Turn the logic board over and release the tabs on either end of the RAM chip. After the RAM chip has popped up, pull it straight out of its socket. Clean the thermal paste from the existing logic board. There it is, looking very delicious. Okay, so we're going to set the timer for 7 minutes, and it's baking at 350 degrees. I'm just going to be doing the reverse steps that we did to take it apart. So I'm going to put it in fast motion, and I'll slow it down for the thermal paste replacement part. Okay, so I've just reconnected the DC inboard cables, the microphone, and the speaker. And now we're going to put on the existing heatsink after cleaning it. Make sure you clean the old thermal paste from the logic board as well. Take your thermal paste and apply it to the logic board. screw it back into place. Before placing the logic board back into the computer, clean where the fans were. Screw in the 9 screws that we originally took out, connecting the logic board to the computer. Remember that the 3 long screws go here, here, and here.
That should fix the problem, so let's see if it starts up. The horizontal lines are gone and the screen looks clear. And it worked. The computer is back up and running.